The sky is falling.
Oh, no.
Star Wars is coming to an end as Disney has destroyed everything.
Was it Murder Planet?
It was Murder Planet has come and blown right through Hosnian Prime into Disney.
Why? What has happened?
Hi, everyone. I'm James. This is
Brock.
This is the Rebel Scum podcast, and we are going to talk about Star Wars today. A lot has happened since the last time we did the show, causing us to have a brand new segment on the show. But because of yesterday's news, I'm guessing that today there will be no surprises. But I do want to start with something.
Right.
Claudia Gray, who wrote the Under the Radar book Lost Stars, it was side by side with Aftermath on the bookshelves. Aftermath with the bookshelves, I don't know what happened. My voice, and everyone loved it. Every single person. Then she did Bloodline. Pretty much everyone loved that. Now she's done the Leia book. Andrew Fantasia will be joining us via Skype later on in the show to give his review of that. But everyone is loving that as well.
Yeah.
So, and she's come out and said a few things about Star Wars and timelines, and she wants to do a Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan novel.
Cool.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
But anyway, this is what she said on Twitter, and it's somewhat, I mean, who knows what she knows, but it's a little bit telling, I would say. This is from 10:47 a.m. on the 13th of September, for those of you following along.
Today.
The guy and I worked out the number one thing we like about JJ as director for Episode 9. Unlike Revenge of the Sith or Return of the Jedi, Episode 9 is, in asterisks, not an ending.
Oh.
Lucasfilm may pause a bit between 9 and 10, but that would be a couple of years at most, and that's if they pause at all.
Right.
Star Wars is moving to true, old-fashioned, serial storytelling like Flash Gordon and the other stuff George Lucas so loved, and JJ loves those too. In fact, I'd argue that JJ Abrams is most in his element in serialized storytelling, knowing when to touch base and when to bring in the new. To sum up, JJ may be exactly the guy to know where to give closure in 9 and where to keep going. Brock, your thoughts?
Cool. I agree with that. I think she's saying a lot and saying very little. Like, I think it's vague. Like, I agree. Like, if Episode 9, as long as like I think I said it a couple episodes ago, as long as they don't have like 5 crappy movies in a row, we're gonna continue to get Star Wars movies. I think Episode 9 will, wrap up whatever storyline, whatever we end up actually calling it. I mean, we're still calling it the Skywalker saga, sort of. It's gonna wrap up what happens there, but it doesn't mean Episode 10, if there is an Episode 10, that some of the characters, because I would assume this trilogy wraps up the old regime and brings in the new one. Not that, you couldn't have Mark Hamill pop up in any further past 9, but, like, maybe he doesn't want to do that anymore. Or, I don't know. But yeah, very pro JJ, so which is great. I don't know why I'm surprised, but I am pretty floored by everyone's reaction to it. Because it's like, oh, it's great. Oh, it's terrible. And it's a lot of terrible. I'm like, why are you mad? I said this in the Flying Casual yesterday.
Yes, sir.
And it's like, it's not even a question of if these are good directors anymore. It's like, the real question we need to answer is like, what are we expecting? So like, I think it's hard for Star Wars fans to like, just say, I didn't like this film. Or I don't like this director. You can just not like the director. If you don't like J.J. Abrams, that's fine. But he doesn't put out garbage. He does a certain style, totally understandable, but like people are like, he's ruining things. Ruining what? Like, he is the one that gave us this new movie with these characters. I'm not saying he created all these characters, but like, we know these characters from the movie he directed. Therefore, he introduced us to those characters. We don't know much about them, but we're about to. And I would argue everyone here, everyone that likes Star Wars wants to know about Rey, and he wants to know about Finn, and he wants to know why Luke is the way he is. So, like, Rian Johnson's going to answer it, and now JJ's going to answer. So, I'm all for it, whatever. But with Claudia Gray, I'm amazed she's allowed to say all these things. So
I think this is that tweet, and I think the reason she's allowed to say that tweet is because that tweet is a personal opinion.
Right.
And now she obviously has a lot more inside knowledge than the two of us do, and you guys watching with her, unless any of you are Kathleen Kennedy or anyone like of that, which I doubt. But I think this is just her as an observer of Star Wars, commenting on Star Wars, not as a writer of the Star Wars novels. Because even when she comments, when she does interviews regarding the books that she's writing, she knows very little about the movies. You know, Rian Johnson, we all know he contributed a bit to Bloodline, but she said even that was minimal. And she wasn't told much. Other than I think when she was writing Bloodline, she was told, because she was writing it before The Force Awakens came out, I believe she was told that Kylo was a Solo. And like that was basically all she really knew going forward into all of that. Like they just tell her what she needs to know to write everything. And I haven't read the Leia book, so I don't know. I mean, obviously Holdo's in it, so she has to know something about that. So she has a little bit of inside knowledge. But I think this is an outside perspective of Star Wars, just like we would give. And I think really what she's saying is what we all kind of agree on, is that J.J. Abrams, well, I don't know if anyone agrees, but most people I think have been commenting on it, how he, you know, we talk about it on Flying Casual, I talk about it on the Den of Nerds, and I think Andrew mentions it too, is J.J. Abrams isn't the best at ending something. Because, you know, his mystery box, you open the mystery box, you're like, ooh, mystery. But he's never actually, like, just closed it and put it away and been like, well, that was a fun game of Clue. So, but I think if he's not going to end it and he's going to bring up more, I think there has to be a conclusion to this the 3-story arc, obviously. There needs to be some kind of conclusion there. That being said, if you're going to go to 10, or if you're going to go back to the Old Republic times, you have to still throw in clues to that don't necessarily need to be answered.
Right. No, I guess the question is, like, in his other works where he doesn't have an ending, which is fine, it's like, will it be different? Because now, like, in all those other instances, was he answering to anyone? You know what I mean? Like,
well, the only original film he's ever made is Super 8. Right? Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Super 8, Star Trek 2, and Star Wars.
He didn't make it, but Cloverfield.
Well, no, he's produced a million.
Yeah.
But those are his directing.
Yeah.
Right? So, I can't remember. Mission Impossible 3 was okay, but the ending was... This is what I mean. Like, all of his endings seem to lack something. And if the whole thing is going to be an ending, is that going to also lack? Is it going to feel? I don't want to say lazy, because I don't want to say his endings are lazy. They're just kind of like more out of necessity. Like, oh, it has to end, so let's end it like this. Like Super 8, I love Super 8, and then it hits a point towards the end, and I feel like it just, no pun intended, goes off the rails.
Right.
And you're like, oh, what? 2 hours, and that's how you decide. Like, it's almost like he has premises, but he doesn't know how to pay off, which I completely understand as a writer. Because sometimes I'm writing something, I'm like, this is awesome, and then you write 3,000 pages, and you're like, well, I don't know how to end it. The world explodes. You know, I think that's it, and that's, I think, a lot of people's problems with him as the director now. Is because of The Force Awakens. And we talked about this, how The Force Awakens came out and everyone loved it. Everyone loved The Force Awakens. If you didn't love it right away, you're probably lying to yourself. But over time, and after you watch a few more times, people are like, oh, it's not that good. Because every movie, you start noticing little things. But I think this is what happens when you pull on nostalgia heartstrings. And I'm really interested to watch Stranger Things again. Because when you play on nostalgia, you're like, oh, I love this because of nostalgia. But when you watch it and the nostalgia kind of wears off, what do you have left? And that's people's fears with him doing the third one is this just going to be another rehash? Which I don't have that fear at all. I don't think it's going to be a rehash of anything.
No, it's funny. It's like, I agree with what you're saying, but it's funny to think, it's like, I had to watch a movie 4 times to see its flaws. It's like, is there a flaw? Like, I think with episode 9, you're right, he could have a really random ending, but like, we all know it's going to be the final showdown, probably between Snoke and Luke, or Snoke and Rey, or Snoke and Kylo, and then those 4 people, there's gonna be some kind of ultimate showdown, be it one goes evil, one dies, one lives, one, Kylo could become good again or whatever. We don't know. Like, but I think it'd be silly to go any other direction. But I don't know. There has been moments, I think, that JJ has said, like, oh, I was handcuffed to things. So handcuff him again? Or I don't know. Again, like, Kathleen Kennedy seems to make good moves. So, I mean, we haven't seen a terrible move yet. I think we're just panicking because it's like people are getting fired. Like, well, that's it. But because Star Wars is so specific, like on a pedestal that we're like, oh, that can happen. Like, it can happen. It's a business. If you do a job that you're not qualified or you're not doing what you're supposed to do, or not even that matter, if you're not steering the business in the right direction, you're just gonna get let go. It happens all the time. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just old and I just don't want to like even remotely waste my time worrying about something like this. So I'm all for it. I'd rather focus on moving forward than like worrying like, oh, look what he did here and there. That, like, I don't know. I mean, Trevorrow might not have been a terrible choice. It just wasn't fitting the Lucasfilm mold. So
I honestly think this whole thing started because of Carrie Fisher. Not because I shouldn't say that, but Carrie Fisher's passing was what propelled all of this forward.
No, I agree.
They had to make a bunch of changes. Colin Trevorrow was not making the changes that Lucasfilm wanted to make, and so this happened. And then who do you get? And the working relationship between J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy was not perfect. The only one that seems to be perfect is Rian Johnson, but he, according to Deadline, passed on this film, which makes complete sense to me because the turnaround time is nonsense. It's just nonsense, and he's probably exhausted. And plus, as much as we say, oh, he had so much fun at Star Wars Celebration, and he's answering these Twitter questions, it's exhausting. Yeah. Like, he wakes up, he edits his film, he wrote it, he's directing it, he's in the editing room. And then he has to go to Star Wars Celebration. He has to go to this convention. He's going to have to do press for it when it comes out. He's going to be, like, just done. Yeah. Like, J.J. Abrams was done after 7, but then I think what happened was he said he didn't want to do another Star Wars film immediately. But then I think what happened was he had that time off. And then he said a few times, he's like, oh, I wish I was doing it. It's hard to, like, go. Yeah. And I think, it does make sense for him to come back. And the thing I mentioned to somebody in the comments yesterday, after I had time for everything to kind of like settle down, and I thought, it kind of makes sense to keep it in the family. Yeah. In that, Colin Trevorrow was never in there necessarily. Like, he was hired, but it was kind of like J.J. Abrams did this, Rian Johnson did this, and Trevorrow was always waiting in the wings. Yeah. But J.J. Abrams, he obviously created the first one. He handed it off to Rian Johnson, and he knows what's going on in Last Jedi. And those two people arguably, and I would say Rian Johnson more so, but he passed on it, but those two people arguably know where it should fall, where the ending should go. Yeah, yeah. So that's why I think it makes sense for that.
No, what was I going to say? It's true, because like Disney wants to, or Lucasfilm / Disney wants to put out one movie every year. Like, you make a good point. You can't have one person direct it all. Like, George Lucas couldn't even do that. Like, so I almost wonder why they don't just hire one writer to do all the scripts.
Especially the saga. The saga. Yeah. That was the one thing that when Disney announced that they were purchasing Lucasfilm and they were going to start making new films, the biggest question on my mind was they hired Michael Arndt to do it. And I think I texted you. The people I was talking to were you and my dad. That's what I was talking to about this. But the thing that I found strange was there was no director. Yep. There was just this writer. Mm-hmm. And I thought, but if you hire a director, are they going to want to do that script? And it turns out they did not, and it ended up getting pushed back, obviously. Because that's what happens. And that's why I argue also that these Star Wars films are going to be more like the Marvel films, which are more like TV shows, and they're going to eventually just be directors for hire. Mm-hmm. And do you feel that's the right way to go, or should they let individual...
I think this thing has to be a project of passion, but I don't know. like, you know, Rian Johnson is like, he loves Star Wars. Okay, but like, if you have him do all the movies, we're gonna get movies spaced apart, like 2 to 3 years in between end of one and beginning of another. Now it's like, I mean, I know we have 2 years till episode 9 comes out anyways, but like you said, he'll burn out. He won't like what he's doing anymore. It'll become a job. So you can't ask that much of. Yeah, in reality, it's like if Rian Johnson would do 8 and 9, he probably wouldn't start shooting 9 for another 2.5 years, and then we wouldn't get it for 3 or 4. Like, which is that a big deal? Like, do we really need everything? It's great. Every Christmas there's a new Star Wars movie, but like it, you know, we've gotten 3 or 2, and about the third one's coming this Christmas in the last 3 years. Like, it's great for our podcast because we need content constantly, but
episode 9, December 20th, 2019. It's actually going to be called Star Wars Pasquale's Birthday. That's what it's going to be.
So it was pushed back, right? Because it was supposed to be March or May.
It's supposed to be May 24th, 2019, and May 2019. Now it's going to come out in December 20th, 2019. Yep. Obviously, I think that makes sense. Why rush it? J.J. Abrams probably like, I'll do it, but I'm not doing it by your date. I want extra time. Do you think it would be beneficial if they're like, okay, we're going to make a saga, 3 more films, 10, 11, 12, or Old Republic, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. I think it's beneficial if they're like, okay, we'll do those every couple of years. We'll have one person to write them all to kind of be the overseer, maybe write director, or a director to oversee it with writer that they choose to do those 3. And then in between, we will have these spin-off films. And the spin-off films is where you give it to directors with ideas, and you stop doing Han Solo and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you start doing Bob the Jedi, and then and then you can hire someone with an artistic vision to tell a completely different Star Wars story, but it's about a character that, because the thing is, Lord and Miller, we have no idea what it was, but you hear that they're trying to make it a comedy, which doesn't fit, especially for Han Solo, because we all know who Han Solo is, and it's so much, and you can't do anything with Han Solo because he is this character right here. You can show him grow into that character, but he still has to, at some point, be Harrison Ford-esque, Obi-Wan Kenobi has to be Ewan McGregor, Alec Guinness at some point. You're tied down. You're really tied down. But if you're just like, here's some random character, do whatever you want, make any kind of film you want, just stay away from swearing and blood. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's like, oh, it's a comedy. Well, because like, look at how Han talks all the time. I think people tend to forget because it's not Han talking a lot, but he's always doing wisecracking and stuff. And it's like, a Han Solo movie is going to be like watching a prequel because it's like, oh, so that's how that happened.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get a cool storyline that is new. That'll be what's new about it. But when it comes to, like, how does he get the Millennium Falcon, they're not going to... This is going to be the first time we're going to see it on film. But, like, and because of, they've erased whatever the expanded universe said about it, they can, but ideally it's like, you got to get it from Lando, and they're probably playing Sabak or something like that. I mean, they showed something of like the Millennium Falcon's going to look slightly different because it's like, well, one, it's an older freighter when we see it.
Yeah.
And, Han has his, aesthetic. He probably just, he doesn't want to be flashy, but meanwhile, Lando is a flashy character. So it's like, oh, yeah, maybe paint it differently or whatever. Who knows? Like, these are all, you're right. Like, it's Han Solo. We know what we're going to get. We're not going to be like, oh, he was a robot the whole time, and then we get Blade Runner 2049 and a half. Like, oh my goodness. I don't know. I think once episode 9 comes out, things might slightly change, because now we can start talking about things, but...
and I said this to somebody else with all this stuff. Let's not worry about it. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
Let's get to The Last Jedi. Yep. Let's enjoy it. Mm-hmm. The director at the end of the day shouldn't really matter as long as the story works, because we know what the film is going to look like. They all look the same.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Like I said yesterday on the Dead and Nerds channel, Tim Burton's not going to come in and do a Star Wars film. You're not going to get something that looks crazy. It's going to all look like a Star Wars film. And and that's why I think Ron Howard was perfect, because I think he can just come in and shoot something like that easily, where he doesn't have to feel like I have to have my style, because he doesn't care. J.J. Abrams is going to make a Star Wars film because he loves Star Wars. He knows what Star Wars looks like. Yeah. The story, on the other hand, who knows? But we have 2 years to even really start talking about that. Right. Let's talk about the movie that we can talk about, and that is The Last Jedi. Ryan Johnson brought up the other day that Rey and Kylo Ren were two halves of the same person.
Okay.
Which would make that Rey would be the good half and Kylo would be the bad half. How do you feel about that?
Sure. I'm all down for that. Does that mean that metaphorically or actually they are two, like when they will fuse together and become the Wonder Twins?
That's what's going to happen. They're going to fuse together.
Wonder Twin powered water dragon. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, that's always fun where it's like I balance you out or whatever. Like, I mean, we've always had that sort of symbolism in Toronto. I am tired in Star Wars. Like it's sort of, Vader is a dark figure. Luke is all in white. In the first one, obviously, or like one's like, Luke is a farm boy. Vader is a hulking piece of metal that creeps you out. So it's like there's always the comparison and the juxtaposition. So I'm all for it. Your thoughts?
I think it's whatever. But I mean, it makes sense if one's bad. Like I understand what he's saying, and they're both on these same paths, but in opposite directions. I think is what he's going at. But he also said that Kylo Ren was very, very different from Darth Vader. Very different.
I mean, like the thing is that, and we've talked about it before, there is a very good chance that like they could flip what their demeanors are. Like Rey could become evil and Kylo could become good. Not because it's like, oh, that would be interesting. Like it's like, no, there's a sense of like they are ethically ambiguous, but that's because we barely know the characters. So I would argue probably Kylo Ren is who we know the most out of all the new characters because he's got a lot of screen time. Well, he's the villain.
I don't see the only way for me to accept Kylo's flip now is if Rey flops.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Because I don't want them to just be telling, a quote unquote better version of Anakin Skywalker. I want Kylo just stay bad, and the whole Reylo thing can still happen if he's bad because a bad guy and a good guy can fall in love, no problem.
Yeah.
So that's not affecting that. I just don't want him to come right to the light for the sake of coming to the light, because we feel like all villains need to they need a resolution. They don't need a resolution. And I like the idea. I think Josh brought it up probably a month ago, 2 months ago. What if 10, 11, 12 is Kylo is a new emperor? Like he is the big bad in the galaxy.
Right.
And this is actually his story of him having power. And but I like the idea that he never really goes full bad. He's in that gray area that we've talked about. But he's more like he's a villain, but he knows how to use the Force as a whole. And he's also a little crazy.
I mean, the question is, if we got a new trilogy, like what would be the problem? What would would we have the same group of villains that the First Order is basically the new version of the Empire. So it's like Episode 9 is going to lead up to them. I would assume destroying the First Order. I don't know, but then once you start at 10, say there's a couple of years in between in the storyline, who is your new villain? Or do we finally get what we've kind of wanted since Return of the Jedi? It's like, here's the rebuilding of the Republic, and here's the new Jedi Order. And then, in Expanded Universe, there's always still a problem, but it's slightly different. Like you have Thrawn, who's like one of the remnants of the old Empire, the Yuzong Vong, which are like a whole different race of aliens that play by their own rules. What is the next hurdle, and would we get tired of that? You know what I mean? Like, we haven't had a movie that has challenged the regime. Like, Rogue One is still a Star Wars film because they're like, oh, we gotta deal with the Empire. So can we have a movie that doesn't have a set of villains like that are just massive?
Yeah, see, and the other thing with the serial comments by Claudia Gray is, okay, you're going to do 10, you're going to do 11, you're going to do 12, 13, 14, 15. At what point do we get tired of it? Are you going to keep doing them every other year? That's a lot every other year to tell one story. The stories now, this could be a good thing or a bad thing, but they need to be smaller scale. Each movie would have to be a smaller scale film.
Yeah.
Story, I mean, because if you go big, then you have the problem where, well, how does it take 20 movies to defeat Snoke?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and how do we not get tired of it? You could argue Harry Potter did 7 with Voldemort coming back every time. So,
yeah, but then he really doesn't appear till the fourth one.
Yeah. So, but you could still argue, like, well, you could do that. You could have there's a new threat, and like everyone thinks that Galaxy's North, and then there's a new threat, and blah, 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 but you have to do that. At what point do you get tired of it all? And then you have your spin-offs in between. And the spin-offs, I still, the spin-offs are the one that people are going to get tired of first, I think. Okay, Obi-Wan's next. Great. And then Boba Fett, really? Okay. Jabba the Hutt, strange.
Yeah.
And then, like, Watto, what? Like, you just start doing, like, these, because I think they have to stay away from characters. Just... Like, I say Rebels, I think, does it right, where they're like, here's a group of characters, you have no idea who they are. Yeah. They don't matter in the grand scheme of things. They are a small section of the Rebel Alliance later on, but right now, let's show you this. They did that right, I thought.
Yeah.
If the spin-off film should focus on that. Give me a character I don't know. Put the Star Wars name on it. That, because everyone's like, Rogue One was a risk. No, it wasn't. You had Vader in there. You had the Death Star in there. Give me a break. That's not a risk. Force Awakens was the farthest thing from a risk. Give me a character we don't know.
Yep.
Put a lightsaber or something in his hand, her hand, whoever's hand you want. Throw it at me. We don't know who it is. We don't know what it's about.
Yep.
What is this? I'm going to go see it. You're going to go see it. Is Billy down the street going to go see it?
Yeah.
Is Martha going to go see it?
Yeah.
That's the test. Do that. Spend spend $100 million on that movie.
Yeah.
See if you can make $1 billion, close to $1 billion, and then move on from there. That's where I think Star Wars needs to be.
Right.
But who am I?
I mean, I would argue that Star Wars has not taken any chances, and they should learn from Marvel, which has between Guardians, Ant-Man. It's not Marvel, but 20th Century Fox, Deadpool. Like, some people is like, yeah, why wouldn't we have a Deadpool movie? But like, that's pretty impressive. One, that we had a Deadpool movie and we got that actual Deadpool movie where it's like, what?
To go along with your point, Deadpool people knew, but Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that was
like, aside from a handful of people, who the hell knew what was going on there? And I know there's gonna be all the comments. I knew what it was. Fine,
but I knew what it was too. But I think we had this conversation in real life. It's like, so they're making this movie about like these like the least popular comic.
Yeah, that is a chance, because the big difference, and when they were like, we want to make the Star Wars films like Marvel, that's not really possible, because Marvel has all of these characters that people know that you can throw. That even like Iron Man, which wasn't the biggest character, they were like, he's big enough though that will draw people in there. You get Robert Downey Jr. in. Star Wars doesn't have that really.
No,
Star Wars is a universe about the Skywalkers. You know what I mean? Like, it's a completely different thing. But you could turn it into the Marvel one. Just give me a stupid character that you just created.
Yeah, exactly.
And like Guardians of the Galaxy, take a chance. And if the movie's good, people are going to go see it because the brand, Star Wars Lucasfilm brand, and because it's a good film.
Yeah. I don't know. I get frustrated with this. So it's like, let's just see the stinking movie, man. If you don't like it, fine. This is my easy out. It's like, it's not for us. It's for our parents you have to sell it to them. You don't have to sell it to us. Like, I have a shirt that has a line that's not in Rogue One.
You're so upset.
Like, I'm not. Either way, it was in a trailer and then it was taken out, or maybe it was put in just for that. I don't know. Someone made this before the movie came out, and I love the shirt. It's great, but like, it is what it is. So,
I have a magazine with Star Wars, and Jyn Erso's line is, "I rebel," which isn't even in the movie either. Yeah,
or the Black Series Sergeant Jyn Erso, Like
Constable Zuvio.
Like there's not someone sitting in a room is like, this is Star Wars and it is like you cannot change it. It is this. It's like no, it changes on a daily basis.
But I think what changes about it is the concern.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of concerns,
never tell me the odds. I was running out of things to say.
Today's odds have all been changed because all of our odds were answered. The original odd was J.J. Abrams. All right, the first odd. The odds of Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing an alien on Canto Bight.
Very. On Canto Bight.
Yeah, it's got to be Canto Bight.
I'm going to go 0 because I'm thinking he's going to be working with DJ based on nothing.
I like the idea that he could be a caretaker with that
Scottish accent. That'd be amazing.
I'm going to go full Brock.
Yeah.
I mean, because from what we know, Canto Bight is full of aliens, so that's why I would think that that's where he would be. But I want him to play caretaker.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I want. The next odds of episode 10 in 2021.
I want to go 30%. I feel like it'll be not far away, but I feel like they are going to take a pause. I think even if these movies are successful, you'll lose momentum if you just keep churning out these films.
Yeah, I think 15%. I think 2025 is the earliest we get it based on no knowledge whatsoever.
Exactly. And
our final odd, the odds of Kylo Ren killing Supreme Leader Snoke in episode 9.
I'm going to go 50-50 on this because it's like this is something that we, like I said earlier, like a showdown is definitely coming and there's nothing to give us any possibility of saying yes or no. So I think it's going to happen. I don't know how and by whom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I go 50-50 because I have no idea.
101%.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
You know why? Because I also want to go full Brock.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to take a chance.
Yeah, and it's more exciting if you have a difference.
It'll be so funny. The first 5 minutes of the Last Jedi, Snoke just dies like Yoda of old age.
He dies in his bed.
Yeah. And you're like,
wow.
All right. It's time for a news segment we like to call
What's Up, Star Wars?
This is a segment because every time we do this show, news drops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think news is going to drop today while we're doing this because of the craziness of September 12th. It is the 13th of September. But let's go on our trusty devices and type in Star Wars crap. What are you typing in?
Star Wars crap.
I'm going to type in Star Wars, enter.
I'm going to do that too.
And I'm going to go to news. Like it or not, Star Wars needs J.J. Abrams now more than ever. It's from Wired.
Yep.
Hollywood moguls are the new auteurs. A bunch of news we're going to talk about later. Star Wars. Oh, so episode 9 is now up against Wonder Woman. Which I thought that was stupid for Wonder Woman to be in December, but
I'm just looking at this. Oh, no, it's just Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
And Aladdin moved to Star Wars.
Yeah, that I was trying to remember what movie got moved.
But nothing.
Nope, nothing so
new
far.
Today. Guess who rejected the offer? We know that Harrison Ford admits Han Solo could show up in another Star Wars movie. That's from an hour ago on The Hollywood Life. Whatever. He's showing up.
Did you see this video? I saw this because I follow Conan O'Brien on Facebook, but one of the producers, Jordan Slansky, is kind of a character, and they had him talk about why Star Wars is better than Star Trek, but he's dressed as Spock. So he comes out, Conan, and he talks at Conan for 7 minutes, and Conan doesn't cut him off because he wasn't told to cut him off. So Jordan talks about Star Wars over Star Trek for 7 minutes, and he's one of those guys that just talks and talks, and you're just like, and they keep cutting to Conan, and he's like this. So that was in one of these news things. So that's interesting. Check that out.
I got news that just dropped 2 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars Rebels first season 4 episode titles revealed. The first 6 episode titles have been revealed. You want to hear them?
Yeah.
Here they go. We've seen the first one. Episodes 1 and 2 are Heroes of Mandalore, part 1 and 2.
Right.
So we did see that. Episode 3 and 4, In the Name of the Rebellion, Part 1 and 2. That comes out on October 23rd. Episode 5, The Occupation, October 30th, 2017. Episode 6, Flight of the Defender, October 30th, 2017. So 2 of them apparently come out on October 30th, which is, unless this is wrong. But yeah, it looks like, though, that the folks behind Star Wars Rebels have all... This is from, what is it, Screen Rant. Article on Screen Rant. Looks behind Star Wars Rebels have already told the story that they want to tell, with season 4 expected to tie various narrative, whatever, including Ahsoka's whereabouts and the ultimate fate of our heroes and villains. Pretty good Grand Admiral Thrawn. Screen Rant. It's Thrawn, not Thrawn. TH.
Oh, it's brutal. One of the articles you sent me there was like a blatant spelling mistake in the second paragraph. I'm like, are you for real? Like, just read. And they should, like, their autocorrect should have found it, or their spell check. Anyways, so that's been What's Up Star Wars.
What's Up Star Wars? Nothing.
Well,
some Rebels episode titles.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that.
Yeah, we'll do it again next week when nothing. The week we don't do it, something will explode.
We'll make our dreams come true.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to books and comics.
Books and comics. Do you have some books?
I know, because we're gonna go to. When you're done, I cut to you. Now we can see your arm. We're going to go to Andrew Fantasia, who has a review of Leia. Do you want to do that before or after you go?
No, you go.
All right. Andrew, what's up with Leia?
Hey, what's up, scumbags? Andrew Fantasia here, and I'm hijacking the airwaves because I have a book review to share with all of you. Now, this book is called Leia, Princess of Alderaan. This came out on Force Friday, September 1st, and it's by Claudia Gray. And if you've been keeping up with the books, you all know who Claudia Gray is. She's she knows what she's doing. I'm gonna go right ahead and say it. This is in my top 3 now for new canon books. This book is insanely cool. It's a lot of fun, but there's some little caveats you should know going into it if you're gonna pick it up. It's not an action adventure book, not at all. I don't think there's a single. I don't think even like one shot gets fired out of a gun in this whole book. I could be wrong. It's more of a political drama. Obviously, I mean, it's about Leia and the politics of Alderaan. There's a lot going on with the Senate. You see the Senate building with the pods and everything. I'm going to keep this a spoiler-free review if I can, but I'm just going to give you some little tidbits here. So if you're into the politics of Star Wars, if you're into the whole what the Senate does over there on Coruscant, especially post-Empire Day, you'll dig this. There's a lot of that going on in here. And it's got a lot of cameos from specific Star Wars characters of the past, some of whom you would understand that, okay, of course XYZ is going to be in this book. But then there's some other neater little cameos where you're like, oh my God, that person's back. There was a moment, and if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. There's a character who shows up in this book just for a chapter and a half. But to see this character again was absolutely delightful, and it makes for one of the coolest, if not the coolest, chapters in the entire story. It's what people are going to be talking about coming out of this book, guaranteed. Other than that, there's a lot of cool interactions between Leia and her parents, Bail Organa and Queen Breha of Alderaan. Something I didn't know beforehand that this book kind of clarified for me. Leia is a princess. Her mother is the Queen of Alderaan, but Bail Organa is not the King of Alderaan. Instead, his title is he's a viceroy. So that was I didn't I never put that together. I don't know if that's been spelled out before, and I'm just a big dummy, or if this is the first time they kind of clarified that. But yeah, Bail Organa, not a king. So Daenerys Targaryen, you have nothing to worry about. He's not going to usurp the Iron Throne from you. But a lot of Alderaanian culture comes out in this book. We get to know the planet a lot more than we ever have, which is kind of a bummer because we all know what's going to happen to Alderaan. But getting to see the way it works, getting to see the way people live there and how they interact with each other, how it's like. Ideally, when you read this book, you're like, Alderaan should be in charge of the galaxy, not the Empire. Like, Alderaan has their stuff figured out. Now, the back of the book, it says that it contains clues about the upcoming film Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I'm going to put a milder spoiler warning. Mild spoiler warning for you, because I'm not going to spoil, plot details, but I will tell you 2 features in this book that will set you up for The Last Jedi. So if you don't want to hear them, plug your ear holes. But the first feature is the planet Crate is in this book. It's not only mentioned for the first time in New Canon, but it's seen. We visit Crate. And obviously that plays a big part. We saw it in the trailer. We saw the red dust and everything. It looks awesome. And then the second thing is a character who will be showing up in Last Jedi has their debut in this book too, and that is the character of Emmeline Holdo, who's being played, of course, by Laura Dern in the movie. Emmeline Holdo makes her first appearance here. I'm not going to spoil anything about her or what she does, but she's awesome. If you're a Harry Potter fan, there's a Harry Potter character that you probably love. Emmeline Holdo is just like that character, and that's all I'm going to say. Read it, check it out. It's going to make you that much more excited for what Emmeline Holdo is going to be like in The Last Jedi. Probably the only negative thing I have to say about this book is that because there's no action and no adventure to it, it's much more of a political thriller kind of thing, is that there's very little in the way of a climax. There is a climax. There is an emotional climax, but there's no sort of big moment of, oh, we blew up the Death Star. Oh, we stopped the Trade Federation. There's not that kind of moment in here. It's a much more quiet moment. It's much more intimate. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it works great in terms of this book. Just don't go into it expecting a huge, giant, third act, enormous tidal wave of energy, because it's not that kind of story. Other than that, though, Leia, Princess of Alderaan, like I said, this book kicks ass. It's in my top 3 now. And Claudia Gray's other novel, Lost Stars, is up there too, so she is doing well. Bloodline's amazing as well. Speaking of Bloodline, I will tease you something here. Sorry, not Bloodline. Lost Stars. If you have read Lost Stars, I'm going to give you a little teaser. There's a scene in Lost Stars where the 2 main characters attend a graduation banquet for their class. It's on Coruscant. It's like a banquet / dance, like a semi-formal dance. And at that banquet, Leia shows up. She has a cameo in Lost Stars. She shows up and she's dancing for a little bit, and then she takes off. We see that scene from her point of view in this book right here. So Claudia Gray really has weaved together an awesome little story. It's surprising because nobody would look at this book and think, this is going to have some great Star Wars lore in it. It just seems like, here's another backstory for another character. But this is worth it. This is it's everything that you would want from a Leia story. It's emotional, 100% emotional, like the whole way through. You're never not rooting for Leia, and you're never not rooting for Bail Organa and his wife. And at the end of the day, I'm very happy that I read it. I almost overlooked it because it was another young adult novel, and it was another origin story, like another step backwards in the sense. But Claudia Gray's name alone made me pick it up, and because of that, I'm really grateful, because this book is awesome to the max. So if you want an adventure with politics and people with white hoods doing this a lot, and trust me, it's a good thing, pick this up. Pick up Leia, Princess of Alderaan. You shan't be disappointed. Back to you, Misters James and Brock. May the force of others be with y'all.
All right, thanks, Andrew. I'll be sure to listen to your review of that one after I finish reading it. Brock, what do you got?
I got comics. Now, a lot came out last week, and I can't do all of them because there's like 7 of them. But I got some pretty interesting ones, and I think they're all pretty new. Yeah. The first 2 are just sort of like fun ones. One is the Star Wars Adventures that we talked about last week. Yeah. And you are right,
Ryan?
Dexter Jetster from Texas Diner is in it. It's a fun one. But the Rey story was pretty interesting because it's about she's scavenging and like some raiders come after her and try to steal what she's found. And it turns out Unkar Plot has been kidnapped, and someone else takes over like the selling of junk or whatever, and she decides that she has to go save him. But it's apparently he's been kidnapped because he has the parts of a droid that these smuggler bounty hunters are looking for, or this, I forget, I should have wrote down the name of this new villain, but it turns out that Rey has the head of this droid. Oh, cool. So like she has what they need. So that's pretty cool, and it was for like it's meant for kids, but it was pretty interesting. It was just fun going to Jakku and seeing new parts of it, and just her being her. Like there's no like nothing hugely life changing about it. Just like this is what she would do, and you got to see more. Constable Vesuvio's in it, or Vesuvius or whatever. And then in this one, I had no clue about this one. Star Wars Droids Unplugged was mini stories.
Is it like an acoustic album?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Unplugged MTV.
Yeah.
I've shown you these before actually. It's by Chris Aliopoulos. I think he draws and writes them, and then Jordi Belair did the colors. And it's just those cartoons. Like they've been doing them in like the back of like Star Wars.
Okay, yeah.
Where it's like, you know, I mean, it's centered around the droids. So one is the scout droids that Maul sends out in Phantom Menace. There was one that was like one shoots off and goes somewhere. This one meets a pit droid and tries to it helps him. And so it's like fun like that. BB-8 helps X-wing pilot and a mechanic fall in love, and then R2 has to. I feel like we've already seen this one, but it's R2 has to go prep an X-wing for Luke, and then it's like it's been canceled. So it's just like fun little whatever. If you saw the Star Wars blips, it's similar to that, where there's not a ton of dialogue, but it's fun. It looks like like the drawing. Chris Eliopoulos' style is like Calvin and Hobbes. So
that's cool.
It's interesting. But then we had these two that we reported about probably 2 months ago, beginning of summer. So the road to Last Jedi, Captain Phasma, and this one is just for funsies, Mace Windu, Jedi of the Republic. So I'll go with this one. Not a ton happens in this. It's cool though. The premise is the Clone Wars have begun, and now like the Jedi have to be generals, so it's like they don't really like that. So Mace has to go and deal with a specialized mission that they're not. The Republic's not giving them any clones to go, so he chooses 3 other Jedi to go on this mission to this planet where there's a lot of droids amassing. So they're like, let's go there and just deal with them. So he takes Kit Fisto and then 2 new Jedi that we've never seen before. One is blind, the other one is just a really good mechanic and pilot. So not a ton of action. It just sort of like sets up the story. He talks to Kiadi Mundi. I always forget how to pronounce the first name. And Yoda, and then they go to the planet, and it turns out there's this crazy assassin droid that's in charge of the droid commandos or whatever. So that's should shape up to be something interesting. But again, like we don't have a ton of Mace Windu stuff, so this might flesh that up.
That'd be cool.
This, though, Captain Phasma was very, very interesting because it picks up after she escapes the trash compactor on Murder Planet, and she goes to the panel that basically turned that Finn used to turn off the shields or whatever, but it's under her code, right? Because she enters it for him. So basically, if anyone were to go back in the system, is that Captain Phasma is the reason why they won. So what she does is goes in and she's narrating the story, but she's narrating into like a recorder. But the whole issue is set up on how she's gonna set up another Imperial or First Order officer. So she puts in the name and it's like, okay, I gotta go find him. So now all she has to do is go shoot that guy. But then he keeps escaping and he gets on I don't think he's aware of that he's being chased. But that's the whole setup that like she knows she has to clear her name. So that, I mean, I don't know if any of the book has that, because the book is more about her origin story.
I haven't got that far in the book still.
So like this is brutal. Like it was interesting. Even if we don't learn that much about anything, I was like, this is awesome. So yeah, very good read. I definitely suggest it. Also, what came out was Captain Phasma, the ongoing Star Wars, and what else do I have here? Issue 5 of Darth Vader. I have not have time to read them, but so that'll put in next week. So
Cool.
Cool.
Let's move on to the news. It's the Hollow News.
All the news.
Crazy week ahead. J.J. Abrams is in. Episode 9 is pushed to December. Colin Trevorrow's out.
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson declines. And
Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Also, this week they announced, or I don't know if it was announced, someone mentioned that Billie Piper, the daughter of Billie Piper? No, Billy Lord. I don't know. You didn't send me this article. I just read it. Billie Piper. Billy Lord apparently auditioned for Rey. So, or I think the statement was going to be Leia's daughter, and then somehow it said Rey was that character. So I don't know the truth of this. Was there more to this story the way you read it? That's how I read it.
that's all I read.
Yeah, so that's cool. It's not really that surprising because why not? Somebody made a corn maze in the shape of Princess Leia. If you see on your screen there, it's after that famous black and white photo of her with her hands on her neck looking out into the camera. After she passed away last Christmas, I think the farmer in Indiana decided to plant this in February. And as you can see from the aerial shot, it looks pretty darn
That's
good.
cool.
Apparently, the corn maze will be open for anyone to walk through as of this upcoming weekend. So go to Indiana.
We are on our way.
It's neat, but I don't know. It might be like weird, like because you're like, this just feels like a corn maze, and then you're like, oh, so like just being, I guess flying over it would be cooler.
Yeah.
Last Jedi revealed. Here's a story about nothing. So
Well, no, everyone's like, who is the Last Jedi? It's multiple Jedi.
yeah, it's still vague though. So basically, Ryan Johnson was asked, "What does Last Jedi mean?" And there's often reference, to Luke being the Last Jedi, or possibly Rey. We don't know. Basically, he said that from a certain point of view, it's Luke, or that we start with it, and that's Luke, because he truly is the Last Jedi. There's no other Jedis, to our knowledge, at that point. And if you've seen the crawl in The Force Awakens, and this is why I argue this is not news, it says Luke has gone missing, the Last Jedi. Luke Skywalker, the Last Jedi, has gone into hiding. But I believe if you watch Return of the Jedi, Luke is also referred to as the Last Jedi. But whatevs. Netflix is officially losing the Disney properties. So I believe anything Disney, anything Marvel, and everything Star Wars. So that's all because Disney wants to set up their own streaming service, which is, I would argue, a no-brainer. I don't know what you think about it, James, but
It's going to get really expensive to watch TV.
oh
in the
yeah,
future.
but like, you know what? We've saved so long on the amount it costs for Netflix that, it was just a matter of time. So they're looking for 2019 to launch this new Disney streaming service. I believe Netflix then retains all this stuff until then, because you're going to want. I don't know. I think it's a good idea, but the interesting thing was once this was announced, the Disney stock fell like 4% because people, like you just said, were worried that it wouldn't work because they'd have to pay another additional $9 or $10 a month on. But, the amount of things you get at your fingertips, I would argue it's not that big of a deal. And NASA has released their new Star Wars mission patch, and it's Star Wars themed, as you can see on your screen. It's pretty unique, shaped in the Millennium Falcon. We see what is probably the moon, but it could be a Death Star / murder planet. And we see the silhouettes of BB-8, K2SO, and I believe that's R2.
I don't know if it's R2 or Chopper.
Yeah, it looks kind of boxy from here. But it's a droid. They selected droids because they represent the idea of adventure, science, and hope, which is basically what NASA's for. Exploration. And finally, my favorite actor, Jason.
You like him so much.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is officially going to be a voice in The Last Jedi.
This is the actual alien you'll be playing.
We spoke of this earlier in the show, so it's not huge news, but he will be voicing one of the characters, specifically Alien, in this movie, and Ryan Johnson says you will notice it if you're waiting for us, so it's not going to be hidden somewhere. But it's not a huge surprise because Joseph Gordon-Levitt has been in pretty much all of Ryan Johnson's work. Usually as a star, he was the main character in Brick and Looper, and apparently he was a background character in the brothers. Not Grimm. What are they? I always forget this one. The one about the bank. But yeah, they're very close friends, so it's no surprise that he's in this. And
Second time he's playing an alien.
Oh yeah, Third Rock from the Sun, where he was the old man and John Lithgow was the young guy.
Great show.
That was a great show.
I like Shatner in it.
And this has been Hollow News.
Hollow News. Let's move on to the final segment of the show where we're going to talk about our top 5.
Top 5 directors.
Top 5 directors we would like to see realistically direct a Star Wars film. We say realistically because there is no way certain directors will direct a Star Wars film.
I just picked the ones that I enjoy.
I picked the only 5 that I know. I do have some honorable mentions that didn't make my list. Can I say them?
Yeah, sure.
Matt Reeves.
Okay.
Because I think he'd make a great Star Wars film, but he's doing Batman and all that stuff, which is realistic now. Anton Fuqua.
Oh, yes, okay.
I think he'd make a good Star Wars film, but he's not on my list. Those are my honorable mentions. Who's your number 5?
My number 5 is the Duffer Brothers, because I love Stranger Things, and I just like what they do, and I'm very excited for the new season, so they always just pop into my head now when I think of directors.
Yeah. My number 5 is Justin Lin, Star Trek Beyond, Fast and Furious franchise. I think he can handle action. I really like Star Trek Beyond a lot. I thought he handled the cast.
Yeah.
A ton of characters. I thought he dealt with them very well, the ensemble. So I'm going to go Justin Lin. My number 4 is Catherine Bigelow. Because I was thinking, like, because there are a lot of people say Patty Jenkins, but she's stuck with Wonder Woman. I was like, you know what? Catherine Bigelow. Detroit didn't hit the way I think a lot of people did. And I think, she's due for her big budget blockbuster.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, every director gets, they do like a bunch of their films and then they do their big budget blockbuster. I think she's due for that.
Cool. My number 4 is Luc Besson, because I just saw Valerian finally. If you like Fifth Element and if you've seen Valerian, he's very good with sci-fi visuals, so it'd be interesting. Story-wise, it's hard to say, obviously not, but he knows. It's it's like talking about monster movies and not talking about Guillermo del Toro. So,
okay,
yeah, number 4.
My number 3 is Tyler Edward Schultz. He's done two movies. He probably should have been number 4. But he's my number 3. I did It Comes at Night, which I really like. It's very slow, so you might find it a boring Star Wars film. But I think it'd be if you go the way we were talking about earlier, where if they tell like these weird stories that we don't know about Star Wars, it could be an interesting way to go.
Right. My number 3 is Christopher Nolan.
It's a grounded in reality Star Wars film.
Let's just get a real director, I guess. I don't know. He does big budget movies, I guess. So,
who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Drew Goddard, who's been one of the main guys behind the Netflix Marvel stuff. He directed Cabin in the Woods, but he's done a lot of work on the universe building sort of properties, and I know he's working on X-Force. There was talk of Sinister Six. I read recently he wrote a script for Robopocalypse, which was a really cool sci-fi book. So I think he could do it. I think he understands source material. But I don't know if he really counts as the director. So
yeah, I would count him because he was hired to do Sinister Six before Sony went even more Sony and lost their minds. Yeah. My number 2 is Dan Trachtenberg, who did 10 Cloverfield Lane, another film that I really, really, really like. And, he's one of Abrams' guys. Yeah. Unless they had a huge falling out. I don't know. I would think not, though. So he's one of Abrams' guys. He seems like he would already have an in. I don't think he's done anything since. I don't know if anything's lined up for him. But I can see him entering the Star Wars family in some capacity. And my number 1, you said it earlier, is the Duffer Bros.
No, that's your number 1? That's awesome.
Duffer Brothers are my number 1. They're number one. We did this list like a year ago as well.
Yeah.
I think it was early October last year.
Yeah.
We did it. We did a spin-off show. Well, all four of us, Andrew and Rob, were here. And they were my number one back then as well. They're still my number one. They know how to, like J.J. Abrams, tap into the nostalgia, get you feeling what you feel. And they clearly like Star Wars. They wanted to direct it, but they weren't big enough yet. So they got shut down from directing it. Anyway, your number one.
My number one is totally never going to happen, Edgar Wright. Because I was like, what cool movie did I watch this summer? Baby Driver. And I'm a big fan of the, Cornetto trilogy with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. I liked Scott Pilgrim.
Love Scott Pilgrim.
And, I think he brings a passion to filmmaking. So, I mean, if you've watched Baby Driver is a great movie. But it's just a movie for the sake of, in a sense of being a movie. It's like, we're going to make a chase movie. Like, cool, let's do it. It's not like, is it going to make money? Who cares? It's like, we're going to make a movie. So I think if you could get him to do a Star Wars film, it'd be very interesting.
And a lot of the success of like Ant-Man probably falls on him as well.
Exactly.
I'm sure he wrote a lot of that, and the mood and the tone and all that was Edgar Wright. All right, guys, that was our top 5. Let us know who you would like to see direct a Star Wars film. No Quentin Tarantino, please, because that is never going to happen. He's even said it's not going to happen. He loves Star Wars, but it's never. He said there's more realistic chance of him directing a Star Trek film than a Star Wars film. So no, but let us know who you guys would think. Let us know what you think of the future of Star Wars. Are you hitting the panic button? You're not. I am, but not
really
because of Star Wars.
Need a panic button.
All right, guys, this is 59 weeks of doing this show.
Wow.
Thank you so much for coming along with us, talking with us, hanging out, and enjoying Star Wars.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, that's all for today. May the force of others be with you.
Always.
Pork.
Hey, scumbags. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.